Chapter 311, Extreme Sports. Oh, yeah, ha ha ha. On the inflatable trampoline, Zhang was like a child, sometimes screaming, sometimes laughing. Zhang Han was beside her, cheering from time to time. He liked very much how Zhang was like right now. She was happy, relaxed, and carefree, as calm as he was. Under the influence of Zhang, he gradually became excited and enjoyed their time together. After jumping for a while, Zhang was tired, so she naturally leaned in Zhang Han's arms, resting on the inflatable trampoline. 2 minutes later, they returned to the yacht and sunbathed on the reclining chairs on the top deck, sipping the Remy Martin, their reward for being number one. What a wonderful life. At this time, almost all the yachts were nearby and people were also playing a variety of games. There were also a few yachts going on a cruise. On one yacht more than 10 meters away, Zheng Chenyu and Huang Wen were also playing on an inflatable trampoline. They were jumping on it heavily. Ha! Whoa! Wow! They screamed and jumped for a while, only to find that they had no such feeling at all. But the couple over there was playing so happily just now, which could be felt from their laughter and screams. But over here, after having fun for a while, Zheng Chenyu looked at the shiny bald head of Huang Wen and then looked at the tall woman who was jumping over there. He suddenly felt very bored. There was no harm without comparison. Since he had seen such a stunning beauty as Zhang, he just couldn't help looking at her that way. He was unable to control himself, which directly made him unhappy while having fun here. So after jumping for a few minutes, they just went back to the yacht, sipping cold drinks while looking in that way together. What are they doing over there? So curious. I want to see it. Oh, what a pity. Why have I never seen such a beautiful woman before? She is gorgeous. I'm falling in love with her. Zheng Chenyu said sadly. He tried to ignore his feelings for a woman he could not have, but deep inside, he was very depressed. Why couldn't he meet such a beautiful single woman? Oh, so sad. He wanted to say that such a good cabbage had been wasted by a pig, but he did not need to look in the mirror to know that that guy was much better than him. Did he have to admit that he was even not as good as a pig? After hearing Zheng Chenyu's words, Huang Wen nodded and agreed with him. Such a beauty. I am also very tempted. Then why don't you chase her, brother Wen? The man with flat-top haircut laughed. Cut the crap. I can feel that the handsome guy has a unique temperament. He is not an ordinary person. I have caused a lot of trouble for my family last month, and if I mess up again, my dad will definitely give me a good beating. Huang Wen repeatedly shook his head. Ah, brother Wen, you made trouble last month. What happened? Another purple-haired man asked curiously. In general, nobody would look good with purple hair. This man was obviously the kind of person who always did what he wanted. His skin was dark and his hair was purple. It was an odd, and not very flattering, combination. Oh, I was just acting jealous. I drank too much at the bar and then fought with a man. I won the fight, only to find that that guy had a background. He's the nephew of a big shot in the Longqing district. My dad used his connections and spent a lot of money to settle this, so I'd better behave well these days. Huang Wen sighed. What? At this time, Zheng Chenyu suddenly sat up. He looked at Zhang Han's yacht and said, it seems they're going to play another game. What is that? A banana boat. I will go too. Coach, prepare the banana boat soon. I will go to have fun with them. Zheng Chenyu was very interested in the couple nearby. He didn't know why, but he just wanted to play around with them. Looking at them made him happy. It was just that they were not willing to come and have fun with him. All right, since you wouldn't come to me, I'll come and play with you. With the idea of having fun happily, Zheng Chenyu chose to take the initiative to join them. After he finished speaking, Huang Wen also echoed, I am coming too. Then you also choose a girl. The four of us will sit in one banana boat, Zheng Chenyu said. A banana boat is an entertainment facility on the seas. The boat is driven by the motorboat and it moves around the sea to make people experience the feeling of floating, Generally, one boat can hold 3-4 people. Moreover, it's not dangerous and is mostly loved by children. The reason why it's called a banana boat is that the boat itself looks very similar to a banana, therefore, it is actually a hovercraft shaped like a banana. Soon after, Zhang Han's banana boat was ready. Zhan was still sitting in the front and Zhang Han was sitting behind her, holding her waist. It's about to begin. The coach prepared to drive the motorboat in the front and waved back before he started. Let's go. Zhan responded loudly. Zoom, zoom, zoom. The motorboat started to move and it was getting faster and faster. The banana boat behind it created waves of seawater in the front, bringing them quite a feeling of riding the wind and waves. At this time, Zheng Chenyu and the others just put on life jackets and got on the banana boat. After seeing Zhang Han had set off, Zheng Chenyu hurriedly shouted, "Hurry, catch up!" Zoom. They accelerated, yet the coach of Zhang Han in the front slowed down after seeing that. Then Zheng Chenyu and the others behind them gradually caught up. When they were about to catch up, Zheng Chenyu and Huang Wen shouted, "Yeah, they are coming again." Zhan turned her head and looked back, shouting, "Faster!" It seemed that she was still in the rowing competition. She looked very cute, making Zhang Han laugh again and again. However, because of the deliberate slowing down of the coach, Zheng Chenyu and the others quickly joined Zhang Han and Zhan and moved ahead side by side. They were separated by 5 or 6 meters. Wow! Zheng Chenyu looked at Zhang Han and Zhan, screaming, "I'm a small electric motor. Aha!" Huang Wen also screamed, but he went further. He patted his shiny bald head with his right hand, shouting, "I'm a reflective sun, let's go. Wow, I'm a flying fairy." What surprised Zhang Han was that Zhan also shouted. She was usually reserved and quiet, but she was so excited now. Seeing this, Zhang Han also followed her. He laughed a few times and said, "I'm the fairy's follower." Poof, ha ha ha. Zhan laughed happily and shouted to the coach in the front, "Faster, faster, we have to surpass them. Go, go, go." Zheng Chenyu also shouted. The 2 coaches of the motorboats in front looked at each other. Zoom. The 2 of them accelerated at the same time. They began to cooperate. They constantly swung to the left and right and made fancy movements. When they were turning, it was like a dragon swaying its tail. The banana boats made an arc as they turned and drove back very quickly. They went back to the area near the yachts. After playing this game, they continued to play other games. They returned to their respective yachts to rest. "Ah, I haven't played like this for a long time," Zhan leaned back on the reclining chair and said after sipping a cold drink. "Then we'll come out to play more often." Zhang Han reached out his hand and touched Zhan's white and tender face. Zhan nodded obediently. She also liked to have fun. But with Meng in the past few years, her thought of playing around had been constantly suppressed. Now with Zhang Han, the thought in her heart had been gradually activated. Of course, it had a lot to do with a happy mood, which made everything seem interesting. If she was unhappy, everything would make her bored. Hi! At this time, Zheng Chenyu, who was not far from them, suddenly shouted, "Going surfing, join us?" "Huh? Surfing?" Zhan's big eyes blinked and she muttered, "It seems to be very exciting. Do you want to do it?" Zhang Han smiled and asked, I want to, but I don't dare." Zhan licked her lips and replied, "Don't worry, I'm here." Zhang Han shook his head and smiled. Surfing is an extreme sport powered by the waver. Surfers lie in the sea where there are suitable waves, or sit on the surfboard. When the appropriate waves approach, the surfers adjust the direction of the board and lie on it. When the water is moving with a certain speed under the traction of the waves, the surfer can stand up and control the direction of the surfboard. Surfing can make people forget their troubles and experience the thrill of fighting with the waves and riding them. That's why there are so many people around the world looking for a perfect surfing spot every day, just in order to complete a perfect chase with the waves. At the same time, it's also a sport with some danger. Some big and urgent waves could instantly stun people and made them sink into the sea. When the next wave arrives, the water pressure would be very high. It's very likely that the surfer's tympanic membrane would be broken, and strong currents could also get them into the waves. The height of the waves for surfing generally ranges from half a meter to 1 meter. Waves several meters high are too strong. That could be called extreme surfing, one of the top 8 extreme sports. However, in Zhang Han's eyes, it was no exaggeration to say that surfing here was just a piece of cake. Before the two of them spoke, the induction bracelet on Zhang Han's wrist vibrated a few times. They said a few words and then the coach also walked up and said, "Sir, there will be wind and waves on the waterfront outside Deepwater Bay. It is suitable for surfing. Do you want to go over and take a look? Let's go." Zhang Han waved his hand casually. "Okay." The coach nodded and looked at Zhang Han strangely. Can he even surf? This required certain skills. When some people were surfing there, he just took the tourists there to enjoy the scene or to experience the small waves. The coach did not ask anything and told others to take the yacht to the destination. Then more than a dozen yachts set off from here. After more than half an hour, they left Deepwater Bay and came to the waterfront not far from the south of Ocean Park. There were already more than a dozen yachts here and even some surfers were ready to go. After the yacht stopped, Zheng Chenyu shouted in their direction, "Can you still surf now?" While speaking, he, Huang Wen, and 2 other men were taking out the surfboards and prepared to start. "We can." Xian responded to him with confidence because she just asked and knew that Zhang Han was capable and she could do it with him. So she waved and called the coach beside them, saying, "Get the surfboard, we'll join them. Let's wait a moment, the waves now are too small." Zhang Han shook his head slightly. "Oh, well, let's go the later." Xian nodded obediently. "The waves are small?" Xian did not understand, but the coach knew it very well. He was a bit stunned, and then he watched Zhang Han, saying, "The waves are not small, sir. Now they are 1.3 meters high, you can surf for a while. The airflow is a little unstable and there will be a few big waves later. You will not be able to surf until they have ended." Chapter 312, Feeling Great. "It's okay." Zhang Han shook his head and said, "Go prepare the surfboard. I will call you when we are ready to go." Okay. The coach nodded and went to prepare the surfboard. The temperature and airflow now were very suitable for people to surf in this area, which was a perfect place for novices, as the height of the waves was basically no more than 1.5 meters. Most of the time, it was about 1 meter. However, today, the water conditions showed that there would be greater waves, so more people came to have fun. Under ordinary circumstances, there would be about 10 yachts. Now, there were around 30. Obviously, there were many veterans here, who were all waiting for greater waves. However, the ocean was always moody, so it was impossible to predict exactly how high the waves would be. As the coach walked down to prepare, he suddenly saw a relatively large yacht coming from not far ahead. There were nearly 20 people on it. When he fixed his eyes on it, he saw some of the figures and muttered in astonishment, "Isn't that Lu Zhongwang? He also came today? Hey, Pang Yilai, Da, oh my, all the great surfers of the South Island are here." This coach had been working on the South Island for a long time and had an understanding of the surfing circle. The people he had just mentioned were all great players in this circle. They had surfed for 6 or 7 years. The coach was not so surprised when he saw them. However, when he saw a blonde man who was just like a sun surrounded by the stars, he was shocked. "Damn it, isn't that David? He's also here?" David's full name was David Kerr. He was a North American who was famous in the world surfing circle. He had once won the American Surfing Championship and conquered the 15-meter wave. He had not expected that David would come today. He knew that these small waves were just a piece of cake for David. Wait. Since when did David surf on small waves? Could big waves be coming today? The coach squinted his eyes and started to guess. he couldn't help but take out the walkie-talkie to speak to the head coach of the club. "Head coach, David Kerr is here. Will there be big waves today?" However, he received no response. The head coach was now on David's yacht. "There's about 5 minutes left, David, let's go prepare. This time, I want to compare with you, ha ha ha." Pang Yilai told David. Okay. David nodded and smiled. "I'll bring you the surfboards," said the head coach, who was by his side. Their conversation showed that David had just gone there to have fun and had been invited to surf by Pang Yilai. In addition to a few veterans who were going to surf, the rest were all people who loved surfing. When they'd heard that David was here, they had come to watch. They were all preparing. On the other side, Zheng Chenyu and the others had already started surfing. "Who?" Zheng Chenyu screamed at Zhang Han and Xian, who were not far from them. As they were standing on the deck and watching the ocean, he began to show off his skills. While waves came, Zheng Chenyu began to show his movements. Sometimes he was ahead of the waves, and sometimes he was standing on them. With a quick turn, he jumped on the waves and then jumped again. He repeated his movements to show off. Poof, seems like he's quite capable. This man is really funny. He has so many friends, but he always wants to play with us. Xian grinned. Hey, Zhang Han let out a long sigh. What's wrong? Xian turned to look at him. You're so charming and beautiful. I can imagine how many people will be chasing you in the future. Zhang Han laughed while speaking. I won't be with anyone but my child's father. Xian bit her lower lip lightly and took a look at Zhang Han meaningfully. The implication was that if she hadn't had a child with him, she probably wouldn't have been with him either. Zhang Han couldn't help but laugh. He reached out with his arm and grabbed Xian's waist directly while whispering in her ear, You are destined to be with me, silly. Xian twisted her lower back and gently hit Zhang Han with her pretty buttocks. So naughty. After seeing this, Zhang Han squinted his eyes and whispered, I'm looking forward to the days that you're not on your period. Such aggressive words. They made Xian, her face flushed. She felt her body become stiff as her waist heated up where Zhang Han was holding it. As soon as she thought about that moment, she became a little nervous and shy. She couldn't express herself very well, thus, she spoke coyly. I don't want it. In your dreams, I haven't finished testing you yet. It's still so early, yet you're showing your true colors. Who knows what will happen in the future? Go on. Zhang Han only said 2 words. Crimson creeped onto Xian's cheeks. Fortunately, the coach came up suddenly and said, Sir, the surfboards are ready. Zhang Han nodded before taking Xian's hand and going down. When he saw that there were 2 surfboards, Zhang Han shook his head and said, One is enough. I will take her. You'll take her? The coach's voice sounded higher as he said doubtfully, Is this okay? Just make the right arrangements. Zhang Han replied firmly. Well, can both of you swim? After he said that, the coach himself realized that he was talking nonsense. Who would dare surf in the sea if they couldn't swim? Zhang Han's expression and tone showed that he was obviously a veteran. After thinking about it, the coach nodded and said, All right, but I'll give you safety straps. Zhang Han nodded. The coach took 2 straps that looked like handcuffs and handed them to Zhang Han before saying, Buckle these on your waist. Zhang Han took over and put them on himself and Xian. There was a rope connecting the 2 buckles, while another rope on Zhang Han's buckle was held by the coach on the surfboard. They reached the surfing spot. David and the other masters were already ready. The waves kept becoming higher and higher. When they became 3 meters high, not so many people were still playing there. Then, high waves of 6 and 7 meters came. David and the others expected that the next waves would reach about 8 meters. They might be the highest today, so they naturally had gone there to prepare in advance. Zheng Chenyu and the others returned to the yacht. Big waves are more refreshing. But I still can't control them well. Zheng Chenyu shook his head. Only the veterans dare to play like this, novices will definitely fall into the sea. Huang Wen grinned. When he saw another motorboat moving on the sea, he fixed his eyes on it in astonishment. Oh, isn't that the couple? Are they going to surf right now? It's them, damn it, they'll surf on one surfboard. Great, can they make it? There was a dramatic expression on Zheng Chenyi's face. If they can't make it, they'll have to fall into the water. However, the big waves are too dangerous. Are they being too bold? Huang Wen frowned and said, if that beauty is hurt, I'll feel sorry for her. Cut the crap. If they dared to come, they must have the ability. After Zheng Chenyi said this, he looked at the back and said, look, the high waves are coming, damn it. They must be 10 meters high, SHT. Who are those surfers? 10 meters, higher than an ordinary 3-story building. The waves were just coming massively. They were so magnificent that they filled people with fear of the sea. Suddenly, a sound came from a yacht not far away. Dear friends, let me introduce the players who are about to surf to you. The leftmost one is David Kerr from North America. The second one is surfing master Pang Yilai. The third one is... As soon as he said that, screams came from many yachts. Even Zheng Chenyi was a little surprised. He took a look at Huang Wen and said, is this the same David who won the American Surfing Championship? Damn it, this genius is here. The others are also great surfers on the South Island. Huang Wen repeatedly shook his head and said, oh I know, they didn't start just now because they were all waiting for the greater waves. They are all great. The other people on the yacht were also surprised. That's the American champion, awesome. I remember that Pang Yilai won the first place in the competition of the South Island Deepwater Bay Club that we held last time. He's great. These are masters, let's see what they've got today. They began, it's so high, they are so cool. Before all these spectators, those people began to surf on the high waves. Quite a few professionals noticed that David's surfing posture was very standard. There was also some casualness to his moves. He seemed very relaxed, as if he was enjoying the happiness brought by the huge waves. As for the others, Pang Yilai was quite ordinary. Obviously, these huge waves were a big challenge for him. The two people beside him were similar, yet their movements were somewhat cautious. However, the huge waves had just taken shape. They had not yet swept through, so they were all able to stand this. There were also 2 motorboats on the left and right side of the waves. They were following the waves, guarding the safety of the surfers. If they fell into the water, they would be rescued immediately. Meanwhile, Zhang Han and Xian had just reached the surfing area. They were fluctuating with the waves as if they were flying. Wow! Xian screamed, feeling very interested, nervous, excited and fearful of the sea. The stimulation brought by this uncontrollable power could not be described. After the waves passed, the surfers couldn't be seen. However, everything was quite clear for the yachts on the other side. When the waves rose to a certain extent, a large amount of water came over very quickly. Suddenly, several people began to surf sideways, but 2 people on the back didn't control themselves so well. After being lapped by the waves, they lost their balance and fell into the sea. The motorboat rushed over and brought back the people who had fallen into the water. After David and the others finished surfing and went back to the yachts, they chatted and said that this feeling of controlling nature was really wonderful. Zhang Han, Xian and the coach in the surfing area had waited for a while before a few waves of 8 and 9 meters had passed. Suddenly, the huge waves formed at the back subsided for a few seconds. Okay, it's our turn. Zhang Han squinted his eyes as he spoke. He put the surfboard down and asked Xian to stand up first. Then, he stood behind Xian and stepped into the buckles with his feet. There were only 2 buckles and Zhang Han stepped on them to control the surfboard. Xian stepped on the front of the surfboard with bare feet and turned to him in confusion. I don't have one, where should I step on? You don't need that, I will hug you later, Zhang Han said with a smile. Ah, you will hug me, are you sure? Xian licked her mouth. Of course, well, the waves are coming, You squat down first, you don't have to do anything else, Zhang Han said. Zhan squatted down and Zhang Han squatted down as well, waiting to slide the surfboard forward with his hands when the waves came. The two of them were ready, they were just waiting for the arrival of the waves. Upon seeing that they were not in a standard position, the coach on the motorboat on the other side of the sea felt worried and muttered to himself, "Can they really do it? Look at their posture. I am afraid that when the waves come, they will fall over." On the other side, a group of people got off from several yachts and got ready to surf. They were all ready to go to the surfing area. The big waves were gone, so there would be 1-meter high waves now. Unfortunately, the ocean was moody. Look over there, damn it, huge waves. Zheng Chenyu was watching Zhang Han and Zhan, who were preparing to surf, when he saw the sea water behind them suddenly sink before huge waves rose and rushed over. They are 17 or 18 meters high. Wang widened his eyes. Oh no, that couple is about to surf. Zheng Chenyu, who was worried, hurriedly shouted in the direction of Zhang Han on the deck, Hey, huge waves are coming, be careful." Even the people on the yacht also saw that. They all widened their eyes in shock. The huge waves just came unexpectedly. The people who had been about to go there had stopped and were now watching the waves in silence. The coach, who was a few meters away from Zhang Han, realized that something might go wrong and looked back in shock. Oh my, so huge. 17 or 18 meters high, those were really huge waves. As soon as he realized that, he quickly looked at Zhang Han and shouted, "Hey, hurry up and lie down, hold the surfboard, don't move." The power of the huge waves was terrible and dangerous for surfing, thus, the coach told them to hold the surfboard in place and wait for the huge waves to leave. He didn't expect that the handsome guy wouldn't listen to his words at all. His palms swept deep into the sea as he prepared to start surfing. Oh no! The coach was shocked. They were going to surf on such huge waves? He felt desperate. If they got hurt, he would also bear responsibility. However, it was too late to say anything now. On the other side, David and the others were on the yacht. It's a pity, these waves are what I wanted. David squinted and looked at the huge waves up ahead. These huge waves seem to be about 18 meters high. The world record is 23.7 meters. This kind of waves are too difficult to deal with. If it were me, I am afraid I would not control myself well. Pang Yilai sighed again and again. Deep down in his heart, he also wanted to conquer huge waves, but he still did not have such an ability. Hey, what's going on? Those two people will still go ahead. If it was one person, it would be okay. But he will surf on the huge waves with another person? They must be kidding. Suddenly, David saw Zhang Han and Zhan, who were not far from the huge waves, and frowned. He enjoyed surfing but was also afraid of huge waves. He knew that waves were beautiful yet terrible. Just because of this, he wanted to conquer one big wave after another. He thought this was also a breakthrough. When facing this kind of huge waves, even he had to be extra careful. He had not expected that two tourists who had come out of nowhere would be so arrogant. They even dared to surf on one board. In his opinion, that man was just an amateur. If he really knew how to surf, he would not choose to surf under the circumstances. However, when they saw what happened next, David said, "How is this possible?" Pang Yilai said, "What did I just see?" Everyone was shocked. What the hell? As they looked at the huge waves, everyone felt very nervous. Zhang Han also felt that way. "I'll begin," he said. When he pressed his hands in the water, the surfboard went forward as if driven by a slight force. This was also the moment the coach shouted that they should hold the surfboard. Zhan looked back and saw that there were huge waves as tall as 6 or 7 floors behind her. "Ah!" Zhan screamed. The sudden huge waves gave her a lot of pressure. She was very scared as she said anxiously, "They're huge. Zhang Han, what do we do? We'll drown." Now, hold the surfboard. Ha ha ha, it's fine, rest assured, I'm here. Zhang Han held Xian's hands and stood up. His feet stepped on the buckles as he took Xian in his arms, amid these huge waves. He kissed Xian's tender cheeks leisurely. You want it to be more exciting or steadier? Zhang Han asked. I. Xian didn't know what to say for a while. Zhang Han laughed upon seeing this. When she saw Zhang Han's smile, Xian gradually felt reassured. In a moment, Zhang Han grabbed Xian's waist and lifted her over the top of his head. When he realized that supporting Xian's weight only by holding her waist might make her feel uncomfortable, Zhang Han stretched out his right hand. He pressed on the sexy buttocks of Xian, who was wearing a bikini. Although there was a layer of fabric, it felt. He immediately gurgled. Zhang Han suddenly felt his throat go a bit dry. He was so naughty that he even used his right hand to pinch and rub her buttocks a few times. Xian was so nervous that she did not notice. This way, Zhang Han supported Xian steadily while the huge waves behind them came. The surfboard, which was constantly being lifted, quickly rose to a height of nearly 10 meters amid the huge waves. It was already very exciting for Xian to surf like this. However, Zhang Han didn't plan on having fun simply like this. It was almost time. Zhang Han transferred the spiritual force in his body to his hands and feet. His arms, which were holding Xian, did not move, but his legs stepped down heavily. Suddenly, the entire surfboard fell into the sea and Zhang Han's body quickly sank. When the water reached his chest, he used less power and the surfboard floated up quickly. As he was about to emerge from the water, Zhang Han exerted force again. Oh! Zhang Han jumped out of the water with the surfboard. Then, he performed a backward somersault in the air. Ah! Xian also turned around a little nervously and screamed. When Zhang Han's body went down, he fell into the water once again. Then, he got out of the water, performed another backward somersault, and repeated it again and again like a dolphin playing happily in the sea. This made the others widen their eyes. So did David, who had won the championship. It was the first time he had seen something like this. How could someone surf like this? Many people also began to wonder whether they were watching a movie with special effects. However, this was real. It was actually happening in front of them. His surfing skills are much better than mine. This is definitely the top level in the world. David muttered with some disappointment. He remembered the last time he had seen such gorgeous movements, when he had met the third top European surfing king in the world. His movements had also been difficult, but they had been performed by one person. This man also had a woman with him. He hissed. This was terrible. While thinking about this, David couldn't help but inhale deeply. Xian was so scared that she closed her eyes at first. Then, she gradually... She was fine. She opened her eyes and looked around her in amazement. Upon seeing Zhang Han's movements and the huge waves in the back, she began to yell excitedly. After a while, the huge waves rose to the highest level and, suddenly, a huge water flow fell down from the top like a splitting bamboo. Ah, it's coming, Zhang Han, I am scared. Xian exclaimed. Zhang Han stopped any other actions, put Xian down and made her face him. Then, he said, hold me tightly. Xian's slender legs were around Zhang Han's waist and her arms were wrapped tightly around his neck. She closed her eyes nervously. As he looked at the beauty in front of him, Zhang Han couldn't help but get closer to her. The two of them French kissed while they were surfing. The water flowing from the waves, of course, did not fall on their bodies. While Zhang Han was kissing Xian, he also turned and started surfing horizontally. Then, the water from the waves flowed over their heads and fell on the sea a few meters ahead. Hua, hua, hua. This sound reached everybody's ears. Meanwhile, Zhang Han and Xian were hidden in the huge waves. It seemed like a cave formed by a water curtain. They could still see the outside world from the side, but since they were inside, even the swirling sea water was within reach. After a long kiss, Zhang Han's lips left Xian's red lips and he whispered, "Open your eyes and take a look." Well, Xian, who was very obedient, opened her eyes. After taking in the scene in front of her, her eyes gradually widened. What a nice view. Xian was intoxicated by it at once. She even stretched out her slender fingers into the sea water swirling above. The rhythm of the water flow and the water curtain were stunningly beautiful. Beautiful, right? Zhang Han asked as he laughed. Yes, it's wonderful. Is it pretty? Yes, it's pretty. Ha ha ha. No matter how beautiful it is, it can't compare to you, Zhang Han said as he looked at Xian. Oh. Xian felt both her body and mind get attacked by love as she looked at Zhang Han affectionately and spoke. Don't speak, kiss me. After the kiss, Xian's face was flushed. She raised her head, sometimes looking at the water curtain and sometimes looking at Zhang Han, feeling like this was a dream. However, the waves would eventually end. When they were about to leave, Zhang Han controlled the direction and got out of the cave made by the water curtain. The huge waves of more than 10 meters ended. When the people not far away saw them, they all cheered up. The coach hurriedly drove the motorboat toward them. He looked at Zhang Han in admiration and gave him a thumbs up. Buddy, you're amazing. He was really convinced now, totally convinced. It turned out that he had just been waiting for the huge waves. His surfing skills had already reached their peak. It turned out that he was a great surfing master. Compared to him, they couldn't even be compared. He was totally convinced by his skills. There are no big waves anymore. Will you continue? The coach asked while looking back. After the huge waves, the sea became peaceful and the waves became 1 meter high again. He believed that, for the handsome guy in front of him, these small waves were nothing at all. However, he did not know that the earlier huge waves had also been a piece of cake for him. Shall we continue? Zhang Han asked as he looked at Xian. No, I want to go back and lie down for a while. Xian shook her head. Then I will take you back. The coach told them. Xian suddenly realized that she was still holding on to Zhang Han's body like sticky candy. After she heard these words, she hurriedly got down. Finally, the coach brought them back to the yacht. As she was lying on the reclining chair on the deck, Xian patted her chest and exhaled deeply. She looked at Zhang Han excitedly and said, "It's really exciting, it's fun, you are amazing. It seems that you still want to play." Zhang Han shook his head with a smile and said, "Want to go there and play for a while? Are the big waves?" Xian raised her head and looked at the sea. She felt that the 1 meter small waves seemed less exciting for them. It seems that there are no big waves. Then let's not go. Let's lie down and rest for a while. Zhang Han smiled and said, "Later, I will take you to surf on the greatest waves. I will also take you to the bottom of the sea and have fun with you all over the world. Ha, I am waiting." Xian giggled. After they had been lying on the yacht for a few minutes, the coach walked up to them. "Sir, David on the yacht over there wants to come and visit you. I have no time." 1 minute later, "Sir, Mr. Zheng, who offered the wine, wants to come and play with you." "No." "Okay." The coach nodded and went away. This time, Zhang Han said directly, "Sail the yacht in a circle." "Okay." The coach went down and Zhang Han's yacht left, wandering in the nearby waters. Xian played very happily. In the next hour or so, she said many times, "This is really exciting, it's so much fun, you are amazing." At last, Zhang Han replied, "I can be more powerful." Then, he smirked and pressed his body against her. This way, the two of them looked at the scenery while hugging each other. It was 12:30. Zhang Han said, "Are you hungry? How about we go for lunch? I'm a little hungry. Will we go back to the restaurant to eat?" Xian muttered in Zhang Han's arms. "We won't go back. If we go back now, Meng wouldn't be happy. Zif has prepared so many snacks that she can't eat under ordinary circumstances. I believe she is enjoying them now." Zhang Han laughed while speaking. this little girl. Xian also laughed and said, let's go eat Western food. Okay. Thus, the two of them went back and the yacht sailed back to Deepwater Bay. Meanwhile, Meng Meng was really doing what the two of them thought. On the first floor of the restaurant, Meng Meng was holding a lollipop and licking it happily. Auntie Fei, I am hungry, why don't you cook? Meng Meng said while watching TV. Cook? I can't cook. Zif curled her lips and pinched Meng Meng's cute little face while saying, you forgot, we'll go eat KFC at noon. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to eat KFC, Auntie Fei, where is my cake? I want to eat birthday cake. Meng Meng said as she pouted her little mouth. Oh my little princess, I told you, we'll eat cake at night, Zif said helplessly. Chapter 313, I don't like you anymore. But I want to eat birthday cake now, Meng Meng said with a snort. Meng Meng was so cute that Zhang Li and Liu King could not help laughing, covering their mouths with their hands. Meng Meng, didn't you already agree? You said you'd listen to Auntie Fei and also promised to eat the cake at night, Zif said, a little helplessly. In the morning, she took Meng Meng to play in Mount New Moon. They didn't come back until 12 o'clock. They planned to eat at KFC, but later they thought that it would be crowded there, so they decided to eat at the restaurant. So Zhao Feng asked someone to buy the food there. The three ladies and Meng Meng were on the first floor and Zhao Feng was outside. He just took out a notice board and wrote on it, closed today. Obviously, those foodies who depended on the restaurant couldn't eat their favorite food today. When Meng Meng heard her words, she pouted her small mouth and said, but I am hungry. Aren't we going to eat at KFC? Zif said, I want to have the meal that my papa made. Meng Meng slightly lowered her head and a light flashed in her eyes. The little girl thought for a while and figured out a way how she could eat the cake. However, Zif looked at Meng Meng carefully and knew what she was thinking. Ahem. Zif coughed a bit and took out her mobile phone, saying, okay, then I will ask your parents to come back now. Huh? Meng Meng was stunned. She quickly raised her head and said to Zif hurriedly, no, number. It's okay that Papa isn't here, then let's have the birthday cake at noon. Birthday cake can only be eaten at night. Hey, forget it, I will call your father back to cook for you. Zif was pretending to make a call. Meng Meng, who had just benefited from her, wouldn't agree. She hurriedly waved her small hands and said quickly, oh, no, don't call him, let's eat at KFC. Don't call him? Zif hesitated to put down the phone. Don't call. Meng Meng nodded seriously. From morning to now, the little girl had just had a lollipop and she had not finished eating it yet. There were still so many snacks waiting for her. Don't you want to eat your dad's cooking? I want to eat eggs. KFC is okay, I like to eat drumsticks. Alright, then I will not call him. Zif put the phone away. HMPH. Meng Meng snorted lightly and turned her body to play with the toys. Zif and Liu King, after seeing this, couldn't stop laughing. They felt that Meng Meng was so cute, extremely cute. Meanwhile, outside the restaurant, that McLaren stopped in the parking space of the restaurant again. Bang, bang. Sun Dongying and Lu Yin got out of the car. Brother Feng. Sun Dongying walked over after seeing Zhao Feng. When he saw the sign, he was stunned and said, is it not open today? Zhao Feng nodded. Oh, the boss went out to play? Hey, is there someone in the restaurant? Sun Dongying saw Zhang Li and others sitting inside. They are Meng Meng, Zhang Li, and others. Today, the boss and his wife went out to play, Zhao Feng explained. Oh, then can I go in and sit for a while? Asked Sun Dongying. Zhao Feng thought for a moment and asked with doubt, there is no lunch, what's the point? Hearing Zhao Feng's words and seeing his indifferent reaction, Lu Yin became very curious. Brother Dong was already super rich with a background, but this Brother Feng in front of them seemed much more powerful than him. The key was that Brother Feng was also very handsome with a unique temperament. He was perfect for being her boyfriend. Well, Meng Meng is inside, right? I came for her. Sun Donging scratched his head. You came for Meng Meng, what do you want? Zhao Feng became even more curious. Meng Meng was less than 4 years old. Why would he need her? I'm doing a live broadcast, you know. Sun Donging smiled and said, a video can be put on the live page. I recently set up 2 fan groups, so I want to put up a video about Meng Meng on the main page. She is so cute and beautiful. I'm sure it will be a hit. I already prepared some cakes for her. Sun Donging raised the bag of food in his hand while speaking. It could be seen that there was a boutique box with several non-creamy cakes of various shapes in it. Zhao Feng thought about it and said, all right, then you should call the boss and ask. Sun Donging's family and the boss were also very familiar with each other, and the boss also saved them. Since he was not an outsider, Zhao Feng did not directly refuse him. What is the boss phone number? Sun Donging licked his lips and asked. I'll call him. Zhao Feng took out his mobile phone and dialed Zhang Han's number directly. When someone answered, he handed the phone to Sun Donging. Ahem, boss, it is me, Donging. I'm doing a live broadcast, so I want to record a video of Meng Meng to show to my fans. I wonder if it's okay. Ah, okay, thank you, boss, thank you. After just a few words, he got Zhang Han's consent. Sun Donging almost smiled from ear to ear. He handed the phone to Zhao Feng and said, okay, he agreed. Zhao Feng nodded and went into the restaurant with Sun Donging. Meng Meng, I've come. Look what I have brought for you. Sun Donging saw Meng Meng was sitting on the sofa, so he smiled and went over to her. Ah, what's that? Meng Meng's big eyes were fixed on the bag of food in Sun Donging's hand. She vaguely felt that there were cakes inside. She liked cakes very much. Small cakes, Zhao Feng replied. Ah, I want to eat them. Meng Meng's eyes lit up in an instant. No problem, but Meng Meng, can you do me a favor? Sun Donging said. What is it? What do you want? Zif observed him for a while and became very angry. The girl's mom and dad were not here today, but she and Jiang Li were still there. Now Sun Donging wanted to do something. How could he just ignore them? Sun Donging scratched his head and said, miss, I want to record a small video for Meng Meng. No way. Zif shook her head directly and said, our Meng Meng is so cute. Do you think you can buy her over with just a few cakes? What should I do? Sun Donging said, oh, no, the boss has agreed. My brother-in-law agreed. Wait, let me ask. Zif took out her mobile phone and dialed Zhang Han's number directly. After learning the truth, she stared at Sun Donging and said, okay, then hurry up and record. All right. Sun Donging smiled. He took out the note in his pocket and said to Meng Meng, you just need to read the words on it later. Meng Meng blinked her big bright eyes and asked in confusion, oh, what is this? I'll teach you. Sun Donging made gestures while speaking to Meng Meng. About 10 minutes later, the recording started. Sun Donging took the mobile phone with a note on it. He gestured, whispering, start. Meng Meng was facing the camera, blinking her big eyes. She looked very cute and spoke at the screen softly. Oh, hello everyone. Well, if you like the live broadcast, please join in the following groups. The QQ number is 162099227, and the WeChat number is 1334725. Join these fan groups, everyone, come soon. Meng Meng had a good memory and she said everything that Sun Donging told her. Moreover, Meng Meng was so beautiful and cute, with a small mouth and big bright eyes. It was expected that many people would love her online. Perfect. After finishing the recording, Sun Donging laughed and kept applauding. Cake, I want to eat cake. After finishing the business, Meng Meng stretched out her hands, asking for the cake. After receiving the bag, Meng Meng couldn't wait to open it. She looked at it and was stunned. Then she looked at Sun Donging and said, "These are not cakes. Where is the cream?" "No cream. These are cakes without cream." Sun Donging smiled embarrassedly. If he knew this, he would have bought the cakes with cream. Meng Meng picked up one of them, took a small bite, and immediately threw it back into the bag. She was very dissatisfied with Sun Donging and scorned him. "HMPH, it's not good, you're a liar, this is not a cake, I don't like you anymore." Chapter 314, Not Bad. Zhang Han and Xian returned to the dock. Before going ashore, they naturally had to go back to the room to change their clothes. When they were going to do it, Zhang Han held Xian and went to the room. Then, 5 minutes later, Zhang Han was driven out embarrassedly. Changing clothes in front of Zhang Han was impossible for Xian now because she was so shy. Another 5 minutes passed. Xian was already dressed and she put down her long hair, which was worn in a bun earlier. She didn't apply any lipstick, but her lips were still very rosy. It had already explained the things that just happened inside. Xian licked her lips and said softly, "Dummy, go change your clothes." Zhang Han grinned. He went in and put his clothes on. Then he came out. He held Xian's waist, quietly watching the docks getting closer. They went ashore and then left the yacht club. When they were about to get in the panda car, the male employee who received them before sent them out with great respect. He was thinking a lot. Such a beautiful woman really couldn't be won over by an ordinary person, but driving a luxury car was much better, right? If it were him, he would definitely drive a luxury car and take the beauty out to have fun. The current situation made him a little confused, and he found that it was difficult to understand the life of rich people. "Which restaurant should we go to?" Zhang Han asked while driving the car. "Let's go to the very restaurant on Ganruo Street. I have been there once. The environment is pretty good," Xian answered. "Okay," Zhang Han nodded and said, "After we have lunch, how about I take you shopping?" "It's up to you," Xian said with a smile. "Ha ha." Seeing her expression, Zhang Han couldn't help stretching out his right hand on the white and slender legs of Xian. "Geez, so annoying. Drive carefully." Xian twisted her body and said coyly, "Yes, madam." Then he drove the car to Pveri Restaurant. Pveri Restaurant was a restaurant with a quiet environment and high-end facilities for the upper class. Naturally, the cost would be high, and it was quite famous in Hong Kong. And its fame came from the master chef, Wang Long. The restaurant had 3 floors in total. The first floor was for relatively ordinary guests in the charge of a well-known chef. The second floor was for celebrities, with the main theme being cozy and romantic. Almost all of the tables had 2 seats, some had 4 seats at most. Xian and Zuf once had a meal here and had a good impression of it. Wang Long, the master chef, also owned part of the restaurant. He was mainly responsible for the guests on the 2nd and 3rd floors. There were several private rooms on the 3rd floor for people dining together. But Wang Long did not come here every day, because he owned many other restaurants. When he was here, he only personally received those people with a background. Now, Wang Long happened to be in Pveri Restaurant. "Hello, Boss Liu, please come inside." In front of the restaurant, Wang Long personally came to welcome the 6 people and spoke to the middle-aged person who was the leader. "Ha ha ha, Mr. Wang, I heard that you're here today, and I was just nearby talking about some business, so I have to come here to taste your cooking. These gentlemen next to me are really lucky today. They haven't tasted your dishes before. After they have tried them, I guess they will be reluctant to leave South Island." Boss Liu laughed. "Boss Liu, you're flattering me. Please come inside," Wang Long said with a smile. Boss Liu had already booked a private room. Obviously, he came here for both having a meal and talking business. When Wang Long turned around, he inadvertently squinted outside, and his eyes were suddenly fixed on the panda car there. A panda car? Could the car belong to? Wang Long stopped and waited for a few seconds. After seeing the person getting out of the car, He squinted his eyes slightly. Mr. Zhang. He was very curious about Zhang Han because Liu Qingfeng criticized him badly in front of everyone before he went to Aslan restaurant. It was not the most important reason. The point was Liu Qingfeng called this man outside Mr. Zhang, and he was quite respectful, so he couldn't help thinking about it. The person who could be treated by Liu Qingfeng in this way would certainly not be ordinary. But Wang Long was not very worried at that time. After all, he did not do anything wrong. He was nice and did not offend anyone. He was not afraid of anything. After recognizing Zhang Han, Wang Long thought for a while and said to Boss Liu, who was next to him, "Boss Liu, please go up first. I'll arrange everything when you have ordered." "Okay." Boss Liu smiled and went to the third floor under the guidance of the lobby manager. Wang Long stood near the door. He did not leave, quietly watching the arrival of the two people outside. This made the cashier and several waiters at the counter very curious. The big boss has gone up. What is he doing here? Hey, a handsome guy and a pretty woman are coming, the female cashier whispered to the man next to her at the counter. Yeah, with such a figure, she is definitely a great beauty. Wait, why did Boss Wang go to greet them in person? After Zhang Han and Xian came in, Wang Long hurriedly greeted them and said with a warm smile, "Mr. Zhang, Mrs. Zhang, hello, welcome." Zhang Han glanced at Wang Long and gave a slight nod. "Aren't you the master of LV Zhao?" Xian still remembered him and asked with doubt. "Well." Wang Long smiled and said, "I am Wang Long, I have no disciple. Mr. Zhang, Mrs. Zhang, please, let me arrange a private room for you." Wang Long nodded and said, "No need, we will be on the second floor." Xian replied, "Okay, this way please." Wang Long politely made a gesture of inviting them and personally took Zhang Han and Xian to the second floor. This made the female cashier and the male waiter at the counter stunned. "They are great, our boss is so enthusiastic," the waiter whispered. "Yeah, it seems that they have a great background," the female cashier muttered. As one of the 4 famous master chefs in Hong Kong, Wang Long would only receive people with great wealth or power. In their eyes, the couple just now had to be from a super-rich family. Of course, they also confirmed this after comparison, because for Boss Liu who just arrived, Wang Long was indeed enthusiastic, but he was less polite. They were chatting just like friends on the same level, but now, Wang Long was both enthusiastic and polite. They got to the second floor and Wang Long had them sit by the window. The atmosphere on the second floor was very good. There were a lot of flower pots and ornaments around, as well as screens, adding in the light music. The atmosphere was really good. "Mr. Zhang, Mrs. Zhang, what would you like to eat?" Wang Long asked directly, without even bringing them the menu. In his view, Mr. Zhang was also a professional, he knew a lot of dishes and naturally knew what to eat. "Bring all your specialties here," Zhang Han replied casually. Xian recalled and said, "I remember that last time the beef was quite delicious, and also South African prawns, flounder, and Irish desserts, and then bring something else." "Okay, I'll arrange it. Let me first give you a pot of pure tea, you can drink it first." Wang Long left after saying that. He planned to cook for them in person and have Mr. Zhang taste the dishes he made. Soon after, a pot of pure was served and the waiter poured 2 cups of tea for them. Drinking tea was also a kind of culture, but Zhang Han didn't know about it so much and Xian just knew a little. After sipping the tea, Xian stared at Zhang Han and her lips curled upward in a curve. "Why are you smiling, so silly?" Zhang Han teased her. "Who is silly?" Xian stopped smiling and snorted, then she became a little excited and said, "When I think about the surfing just now, I get goosebumps. You see, the height of the waves was just like that of a 7-story building. Hey, it seemed they were devouring us, so scary. You held me and surfed so high, it was really exciting. It was my first time surfing. I didn't expect it to be so beautiful, like a cave made of a curtain of water. It's prettier than on video." So much fun. Oh, you like exciting games? Zhang Han said with a chuckle. Well, I like exciting games. I went bungee jumping several times before. Xian pouted her red lips. I didn't expect that. I used to think that you were aloof and reserved. Now you are just like a naughty little girl. Zhang Han laughed. HMPH. Xian rolled her eyes to Zhang Han and said, I'm always like this. I can play happily with my friends. Besides your friends, is there anyone else? Zhang Han said with a smile. Nobody. You have. Who is it? My family? Wrong. Your husband. PFFT, no way. You. HMPH. Xian's pretty face was flushed. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han laughed. He became even fonder of Xian, and he liked to watch her pretty face flush. After the joke, Zhang Han thought for a moment and said, You like exciting games, then I will take you to play a game at night. What game? Xian asked curiously. Racing. Racing, is it safe? Xian licked her red lips. I'm with you, so of course, it's safe. Zhang Han chuckled and said, You forgot. Meng once told you that I won a sports car by racing. PFFT, you're just making me angry. You are not serious at all. I asked you to look after Meng, but how could you take her racing? That's not a safe place, Xian said in anger. It's fine. I used to go a lot and some of the tracks are straight. The speed is not so fast. It's very safe. Then we will go and experience it. Xian replied with a smile. Today was the time for just the two of them, so they should just play happily. Surfing for the first time, racing for the first time. It would definitely be a good memory in her life. The dishes were served while they were speaking. A few minutes later, Wang Long walked up with the last dish. Mr. Zhang, Mrs. Zhang, please have a taste. Wang Long smiled and said, This Mondot is my little gift for you. Mr. Zhang, please taste my dishes. Wang Long expressed his kindness, and at the same time, he was pondering one thing. How should he ask Mr. Zhang about the ingredients? After returning from Aslan restaurant that day, Wang Long always thought of the delicious fried rice. The ingredients made him curious. He was thinking about going to Meng's recreational restaurant in a few days. He didn't expect his target to come here today. Wang Long intended to talk about that after Zhang Han tasted his dishes. He thought because his cooking skills were superb and Mr. Zhang, as a professional, had to know about a chef's desire for good ingredients, things could become easier. But he was wrong. In his expectant gaze, Zhang Han ate a bite of beef. He nodded and answered lightly, Not bad. Chapter 315, Looking forward to that moment. Not bad. Wang Long's mouth trembled slightly, from Zhang Han's expression and indifferent tone. He knew that in the eyes of this Mr. Zhang, the dishes he made were just so-so. Just so-so. It seemed that he received this kind of evaluation 10 years ago. He felt a little disappointed, but fortunately, the evaluation given by Xian was better. It's good. Xian glanced at Zhang Han. Although it is no better than yours, it is quite close. Okay, I admit defeat. Wang Long laughed bitterly. He knew that Zhang Han's restaurant was famous for egg fried rice and those kind of ingredients would indeed win the foodies over. Your cooking is good, but the ingredients are a little bad. Zhang Han tasted a few other dishes, then he took a look at Wang Long and gave his evaluation. The implication was, I have finished the evaluation, you should not be a third wheel here. Wang Long naturally knew what he meant, but he thought for a while and still spoke out his inner thoughts. Mr. Zhang, I know it's impolite to say this, but I just can't help asking. Mr. Zhang, your ingredients are great. I wonder if I can get some of the ingredients from you. I don't care about the amount. He was quite polite. He especially said that he wanted some ingredients from Zhang Han. It meant that he would not ask him from which source he purchased the goods. He just wanted some good ingredients. When Zhang Han was just about to refuse him, Wang Long said quickly, Mr. Zhang, please consider it for a few days. Whether it is about the price or anything else, I will give you a satisfactory answer. I will visit you in person in a few days. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, Mrs. Zhang, please enjoy your meal. After he finished, he nodded directly and turned away. So cunning. Xian looked at the back of Wang Long and smiled. He's a smart person. Zhang Han shook his head slightly. Poof. Xian looked at Zhang Han and couldn't help laughing. What are you laughing at? Zhang Han asked with a smile. I'm laughing at you. I always feel that you are like a nerd, but now you said seriously that he was a smart person. I found you were a little cute. Xian licked her lips and said. Cute? Zhang Han couldn't help laughing. Except for when he was a child, this was the first time that someone said he was cute. Ha ha ha, let's eat, we'll go shopping after this. Zhang Han laughed. Xian nodded obediently. They finished their lunch in a cozy atmosphere. After a short rest, they decided to leave. Something interesting happened when they paid the bill. The female cashier at the counter was a little cute, saying that they would get a 30% discount. Zhang Han did not refuse this discount. He directly paid the bill and left with Xian hand in hand. Looking at the back of them, the cashier stuck out her tongue and murmured, "They are great." Boss Wang personally cooked for them and also gave them some treasured liquor. He even gave them a 30% discount. Hey, it seems that they are not merely rich. In her opinion, wealth alone would not make Wang Long have such an attitude because many rich people had come to eat here before, but they never got a discount. They got in the panda car and headed for the commercial street of Zhukeng district. The house that Zhang Han sold before was in the Zhukeng district. He lived here for a while, so he knew it well and didn't use the navigation. He drove all the way and stopped at the underground parking lot of Dashing Mall on the commercial street. Put on the sunglasses, you look pretty cool with them. Xian handed sunglasses to Zhang Han. Yeah? Zhang Han nodded and put them on before getting out of the car. Come. Zhang Han's hands were put into his pocket and his right arm was slightly bent. Then he called Xian. Xian went over to him obediently. She stretched out her left arm and held Zhang Han's arm intimately. With this kind of posture, Zhang Han could feel the softest part of her body even when he moved a little bit. They were quite intimate. Let's go up from the third elevator over there. Zhang Han motioned with his lips at the entrance 100 meters in front of them. He remembered that going up from there would be a luxury area. There were not many people in the underground parking lot. Only 6 or 7 people were in the elevator. But seeing Zhang Han and Xian, several men had some inexplicable feelings. They held their breath, or squinted at Xian, or peeked at her in the reflection of the elevator. The charm of Xian was unquestionable. No matter where she went, she was always the most eye-catching person. Soon after, they arrived at the first floor. Zhang Han and Xian got out of the elevator. Other people went upstairs, where there were men's stores and some relatively popular stores for the public. When they saw the two of them going to the first floor via the number 3 elevator, 2 people could not help shaking their heads. Consuming the once would cost millions. They got out of the elevator and there were not many guests in this area. Let's see this first. Zhang Han walked to the nearest Hermes store with Xian. Sir, madam, welcome. The shopping guide's face was full with smiles. She came over and said, what would you like? Women's handbags, Zhang Han replied. Okay, sir, please come here. The shopping guide took them to the counter of women's handbags and picked up a silver white feather bag, saying, this is the Hermes Himalayan 25 cm Kelly bag, with crocodile skin and texture. Everything, including the lock catch, matches the temperament of this lady. This bag was worth 820,000 yuan. It was one of the most expensive bags in this store. When she introduced it, she constantly looked at the expressions of Zhang Han and Xian. If they hesitated, she would directly introduce to them some bags worth just 10 to 20,000. She just didn't expect that after the lady in front of her looked at it, the handsome guy would open his mouth and say, I'll take it. Okay, sir, please pay here. The shopping guide was surprised and overjoyed. It was great. She hadn't sealed one deal today, and when it arrived, it was a big one. But she did not expect that this bill would be worth much more than she was thinking now. We haven't finished, why pay now? Zhang Han smiled lightly. Ah, oh, sorry. The shopping guide smiled a little embarrassedly. That bag looks good, we'll take it, too. Zhang Han pointed to a small black shoulder bag over there. Okay, this is a Hermes lady's shoulder bag, with black crocodile leather and gold buckle. The price is 413,000. The heart of the shopping guide beat fast. Another bag sold. And that big black bag. Zhang Han took hold of Xian's hand and walked forward while pointing casually, this, and this. He selected 12 women's bags of different styles. At this time, Xian was a little shocked. But the shopping guide was much more shocked. She had been stunned by this sudden surprise. I don't need so many, Xian whispered to Zhang Han. It's just for fun. Zhang Han smiled leisurely. He looked at the shopping guide, saying, that's all, the bill. Okay, sir, please come here. The stunned shopping guide took Zhang Han over to pay the bill. It was 4.85 million in total. Xian stood by Zhang Han without any expression, but she involuntarily licked her lips. After telling them the delivery location, Zhang Han took Xian's hand and left the store, leaving a few shopping guides there who constantly shook their heads. You bought too many, I don't need them, Xian said softly. Not at all, we'll go to the OV store in the front and buy some. Zhang Han smiled and said, come on, it is a waste to buy too many bags. Xian pouted. Although she indeed liked those bags, Xian was still more rational. It was true that Zhang Han could make a lot of money, but they couldn't be so extravagant. Da. Suddenly, Zhang Han received a message. Zhang Han smiled. He took out his mobile phone, opened the message and handed it to Xian. Money is just a bunch of numbers. Just spend it. You know money is not what we are pursuing. Huh? Xian saw the string of numbers in Zhang Han's message and was shocked. How do you have so much money? Xian asked Zhang Han curiously. How could he have a deposit of nearly 260 million? It was so much. When Zhang Han wanted to rent a mountain, he still needed to sell the house. Now it had only been over a month. How could he get so much money? When Zhao Feng annihilated a big gang boss, he got 1.3 billion in total. I told him to open a company, but he secretly transferred me 200 million, and that 60 million is the profit of running the restaurant. Zhang Han simply replied. Xian stared at Zhang Han with her big eyes and asked, Oh, how could he get so much money by annihilating the gangs? This is just a part of that gang boss assets, and Zhao Feng is from the special forces. He'll work for me later, Zhang Han said with a smile. Then, are you really his master? Hey, I find that you are getting more and more mysterious. Are you hiding a lot of things from me? Xian snorted lightly. There are some things you don't know. But I'm waiting for an opportunity for you to see with your own eyes. Zhang Han smiled and replied. He grabbed Xian's waist and said, because that scene will be very pretty. As for the cultivation, Zhang Han naturally did not intend to hide it from Xian. First, he felt that life now was warm and nice. Second, he prepared to let Xian see it when the Thunder Yang tree inspired the ability to transform the territory a second time. That moment would definitely shock all people. That moment would have a dreamlike beauty. And that moment seemed to be good timing for a marriage proposal. This was Zhang Han's long-standing idea, but it would still take a while. When he married Xian, the ceremony would be grand and romantic. But first of all, he had to find his parents. During this period of time, Zhang Han planned to accompany Meng and Xian. Hearing Zhang Han's words, Xian bit her lower lip lightly. She faintly felt that it would be a very warm and romantic moment. She was looking forward to it. HMPH, then I will wait for that day. Xian pouted and snorted. She twisted her waist and said, okay, let's go hand in hand. Hold my arm. Zhang Han raised his right arm and smiled. Dummy. Ziyan rolled her eyes and stretched out her left hand to hold Zhang Han's arm. We'll buy some more bags, some jewelry, and also some clothes. Zhang Han smiled. Up to you, Ziyan said happily and did not refuse. There is another thing I really want to buy. What is it? Ha ha. Zhang Han's eyes were fixed on the long legs of Ziyan. He moved his head to her ear and whispered, black silk stockings. Swish. Ziyan's pretty face flushed. She reached out her hand and pinched Zhang Han's waist, saying coyly, come on, you're annoying. Ha ha ha. Chapter 316, Mount Red Star. Seeing that Ziyan was bashful, Zhang Han smiled heartily. Since he laughed at them all, his laughter did attract various people's attention and arouse some shopping guides' curiosity. At this point, Ziyan's face became ruddier. Zhang Han never cared about what others thought, and probably he followed his bigoted course. However, his casualness was really intriguing. Only those who experienced lots of ups and downs would become people with great freedom. As for Zhang Han, he obviously had gone through a variety of setbacks. In fact, only classy people could harness such an attitude towards life. If someone pretended to be natural and unrestrained on purpose, he might look neither fish nor fowl. But at this time, there were two starting shopping guides, who were slightly shy, curling their lips. They did not agree with him to laugh so loudly in public. Moreover, since they did not carry any shopping bags when they went out of a store, they apparently just strolled around. However, after Zhang Han and Ziyan walked into the LV franchise store opposite, the two guides saw that the man pointed to some commodities and then paid, and that the shopping guides in that store were so excited that they blushed. By this time, they had known the fact. They originally are disinclined to carry bags. Zhang Han and Ziyan shopped for more than 2 hours. They bought plenty of stuff, including some diamond jewelry, jade bracelets, clothing and so on, in addition to some ladies' handbags. But as Zhang Han intended to go to the underwear store with Ziyan to buy black silk stockings, Ziyan flushed and firmly refused. Seeing that she was shy, Zhang Han finally gave up. He thought that he could buy them directly next time. By then, he would definitely persuade her into wearing them. After finishing shopping, the two of them had afternoon tea at a shop in the mall. They took a break for half an hour and then set off. This time they strolled around the commercial street aimlessly, until the sky darkened. Do we go back to the restaurant to have dinner? Ziyan asked. I'll ask Zif for advice first. After thinking for a while, Zhang Han said, oh. Ziyan took out her mobile phone and dialed Zuf's phone number. Hello, Fei, elder sister Yan. Suddenly, Zuf's scream was heard from the phone. You do buy so many things. Wow, your bedroom is almost filled with boxes. Well, there are a lot of bags and you can select some you like. Ziyan smiled and said, how about Meng Meng? Does she miss us? Yes. Meng Meng said in a hurry. At this time, Ziyan eventually knew that Zif opened the hands-free function. What do you want to eat at dinner, Meng Meng? Your papa and I will go back to cook for you, Ziyan said. Oh. Won't you stay there longer, Mama? Don't you come back later? Hey, you originally don't miss Mama and Papa, Ziyan said with a chuckle. No, I really miss you, but Auntie Fei. Meng Meng was a little confused and her anxious voice was heard. Ha, ha, ha. Zif laughed a few times and said, elder sister Yan, I promised Meng Meng that we would play until 10 o'clock. Fine, we'll come back later, Ziyan said, slightly shaking her head. Okay, fine, just enjoy yourself, bye-bye, Zif said, and then hang up the phone. Hearing what she said, Ziyan grinned. She looked at Zhang Han and said, I really don't know how Fei bewitches Meng Meng. So, let's go to have dinner first. What would you like to eat? Zhang Han asked. Let's go to eat fish. After a pause, Ziyan said, well, we'll go to a featured fish restaurant, By the way, there are lots of fish in the fish pond on the mountain. I think that we can eat it after a period of time, and I'll cook for you then." Zhang Han held Xian's hand and said while walking, "Oh, you indeed know a lot. You almost keep everything yourself. It's mainly because it is a land of treasure." Zhang Han smiled. He would show Xian the true color of Mount New Moon later. The two of them went to a fish restaurant to have dinner, enjoying a few special dishes. One of them was steamed grouper. The chef selected a banded grouper, whose meat was relatively tender. One was spicy boiled fish, with king jiang fish as its major ingredient. The other was crucian carp soup, which tasted light. The three special fish dishes, together with some staple food, were completely enough for them. After dinner, Xian pouted and blinked her beautiful big eyes, staring at Zhang Han without saying anything. Because they ate in a compartment, they certainly did not wear sunglasses, and Zhang Han could see Xian's face clearly. You act like my little fan. Don't adore me dreadfully, I'm your husband." Zhang Han chuckled and teased her. Who's your fan, Xian snorted and her long lash flickered since she blinked her big eyes quickly, and then she muttered, "I just thought of surfing, it's so high and exciting." Ha, haven't you asked me to go racing with you? When are we going? You can take a short break and I'll ask for the address first." Zhang Han said, and then he took out the phone and dialed Zhao Feng's number. "Xiaofeng, do you know where can we race?" "Oh, okay, send the address to me." After Zhao Feng sent him the address, Zhang Han left the restaurant with Xian. After they got into the panda car, "By the way, will you drive this car to go racing?" Xian asked in doubt. Although Xian had not raced before, she had seen several racings and knew that people would choose some relatively straight and flat roads, for they were suitable for speeding up. In fact, this kind of roads did not require racing drivers to have excellent trick cycling. Therefore, some drivers, who were not very professional, would choose some roads with a low degree of difficulty to drift, while others with outstanding skills would choose stimulating roads. They would take the field if they could, and if not, they would ask other racing drivers to drift. Furthermore, many people would guess the result of the racing for the sake of passion. Xian had seen some childs racing when she had been in Singapore at the beginning, as if they were having a party. Many of them knew how to drift, and the audience always cheered as they got out of the cars. At this point, hearing Xian's question, Zhang Han thought for a while and nodded. "It seems that we only have this car, but this car is also qualified to compete with others, for its parts are A8Ls. Is this a refitted vehicle? Why don't you buy another car directly?" "Because Meng likes it, and I bought whatever she likes," Zhang Han replied. You will spoil her. You have to learn to refuse and can't promise her anything she wants." The instant he mentioned that, Xian got angry. She pinched Zhang Han's waist and said, "You treat Meng without principle when you are together with her, and I really worry about you. You'll be anxious once she is badly spoiled." Ha. Zhang Han shook his head with a smile and said, "I'll never refuse Meng, just like I'll never refuse you. You are the most important people to me, and I can't love you more. You're glib." Xian was so delighted at this moment, and she glared at Zhang Han gently. "Kiss me." Zhang Han got close to Xian and pouted. "Kiss you? No. Come on." Xian muttered and approached him, and then she kissed him slightly. At this point, Zhang Han started the car with satisfaction, heading for the address that Zhao Feng sent. Located in the mountain range between Zikeng district and the eastern, it was named Mount Red Star, which was a base for planting fruit tree. Around this mountain were roads. Later, it was abandoned for several years. With the investment of South Island Supercar Club, the roads were repaired once again and it successfully became a field for racing. There were straight roads and mountain roads on this mountain, which was suitable for every racing driver. Zhang Han and Xian headed for the destination while chatting. When they drove on the mountain road, they saw that Zhao Feng's Land Rover was pulled over. Catching sight of Zhang Han's car, Zhao Feng lit the car lights up and pressed the horn 3 times, and then he drove forward to lead the way. In the meantime, dozens of people gathered on the edge of Mount Red Star. Next to the road, there located a small square, with a large one-story house with a sign of South Island Supercar Club on it. In front of the house, there were more than 20 supercars and some saloon cars. Among these sports cars, the most expensive one was Ferrari F12 Berlinetta, worth more than 5 million yuan, while the cheapest one was Porsche 718, which cost nearly 1 million yuan. Of course, most of them cost around 2 million yuan. These people were all rich second generations, who wanted to race to get thrills. What was funny was that there were a total of 7 sports cars preparing to race in front of the runway at this time. In addition to the Ferrari F12 in the middle, there was also a yellow McLaren. Brothers, what do you think? Is this field okay? Hey, thanks to the super rocket from Danny Wu and the plane from the Dream of 1 Billion Girls. Sun Donging was sitting in front of the car and doing the live broadcast. In just a few days, Sun Donging attracted over 500,000 viewers, and sometimes the number would exceed 1 million. It was worth mentioning that Sun Donging was dumbfounded as he shot a video for Meng Meng. When he started doing the live broadcast, the whole screen was filled with bullet screens. What the foo-K, Brother Dong, where do you find the cute little girl? She's so charming. In the face of this question, Sun Donging just smiled and spat out 2 words, just guess. Later, the viewers did not shift their attention until Sun Donging told them that there would be a racing at night. He came over early after dinner with Lu Yin and her companions and had done the live broadcast for more than half an hour. Stone and 2 of his companions stood nearby, while he took Lu Yin to make preparations to race later. Well, get into the car quickly, make preparations and the racing will start right away. At this moment, the man in Ferrari shouted, "Okay." Sun Donging responded and got into the car with Lu Yin. These cars were all ready, and a tall sexy girl, with a bunting, walked to the dividing line in the middle of the sports cars. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Every car made a fair-sounding sound of engines. Just when the tall beauty was about to wave the flag, a man rushed to the field all of a sudden. Stop, stop. This round of racing should be cancelled. It was the head of the club. He waved his hands to stop the tall beauty, and then stood in front of the cars to beckon the drivers to shut off the engines. What the hell are you doing? Do you know the racing is going to begin? The man in the Ferrari car stuck his head out and shouted with dissatisfaction. You have to stop and get away. Boss Yi is coming and wants to race, the head of the club answered loudly as he frowned. Chapter 317, Yi Han gets the willies. Who, is Boss Yi coming? The man in the Ferrari suddenly became cautious. Now that the head of the club called the person Boss Yi, he must be Yi Han, the big shot of Eastern District. There was a total of 3 sports car clubs in the South Island, and Yi Han was in charge of Mount Red Star. In terms of social status, these childs present were all inferior to Yi Han. Besides, they still had a long way to become the real top childs though they were rich. When it came to identity, Yi Han, as the major investor for Mount Red Star, was regarded as a boss here. Therefore, they had to fulfill all his requests. Make all the lanes. Boss Yi is coming soon. The head of the club glanced at his watch and said, "Okay." The man in the Ferrari nodded, and then he started the car and parked it not far away. My gosh, here Yi Han is, we have to wait for a while. After saying to the phone, Sun Donging drove his car to the parking area. At this moment, a lot of viewers became upset. What the foo-K, why do we still have to wait? We've waited for almost an hour. Can't the racing begin? I don't want to wait, either, Sun Donging said helplessly. I can't do anything now because the boss is coming. To tell you the truth, Yi Han, as the big shot of Eastern District in South Island in Hong Kong, is really powerful. What, you want to see him? Well, I'll aim my lens at him later. I don't know him, but my brother Feng and brother Hu are also formidable. Brother Feng is in southern district, while Yi Han is in eastern district. It's indeed different. That's right, I think they are on a par. Sun Donging simply explained to the viewers. In fact, according to their previous status and strength, Yi Han was much stronger than Zhao Feng, but now, since Sun Donging did not know the details, he could only tell them that the two of them were evenly matched. Moreover, his words could indirectly show that he was relatively awesome. Brother Dong, should we get out of the car? Lu Yin asked. Yes, they probably are right there. Sun Donging glanced at the rear view mirror and said, and then he got out of the car. At this point, people in groups also gathered to the roadside, and they could clearly hear the roars of the engines of supercars. Soon, several supercars came into view. There was a total of 2 teams, and 7 or 8 supercars on the left, led by Yi Han's Aston Martin 177. On the right side were 5 supercars, led by an orange Lamborghini Reventon. Then these supercars directly stopped at the intersection. Do you see that grey Aston Martin 177? The number of this vehicle is strictly limited to 77, and each of them values over 50 million yuan. It is Yi Han who possesses one. Actually, he is not only the big shot of Eastern District, but also a past master of supercars trades. He's really awesome, Sun Donging said as he turned the phone's camera. The Lamborghini Reventon next to it costs more than 16 million yuan. Do you know who is sitting inside? The person gets out of the car. Fu Ke, is this Childel? He is also powerful, and his father, as the chairman of the Dingfen Group, values over 3 billion yuan. How formidable they are. Lu Yin was standing by Sun Donging and felt dazzled at this moment, and then she stuck her tongue out and said, it was the first time that she had seen so many supercars. She originally felt somewhat proud since she had earned more than 1 million yuan through the live broadcast, but she did not know that she even could not afford a tire of these cars until she came to Hong Kong this time. Not only Sun Donging was a little surprised. At this point, the crowd came out exclamations at times. Here Child Yi is. Child actually is here too. Child Yi doesn't look well. Does he conflict with Childel? Everyone present knew that Yi Han and Childel hated each other. Now that they came here at the same time, they were bound to have a race. All the people of the two teams got out of their cars. After getting out of the car, Yi Han waved to the head of the club and said, open the monitor. Hearing that he said in an angry tone, the head of the club got a fright, and then he quickly asked the staff to open the monitor. About 40 small screens, which were connected with the monitors on the street lamps of every part of the road, were on the left wall of the house. Since this place was transformed into a special racing venue, it definitely was equipped with complete facilities. As Yi Han spoke, every one of his team also got out of the cars and walked up behind him, while 8 people of another team followed Childel. If Zhang Han were here, he could certainly recognize that the two among them standing behind Childel were Zheng Chenyu and Xuanhuan with a bald head who had gone to the sea in the morning. Fang, how do we gamble for a larger amount? Yi Han said to Childel in a provocative tone. Oh, gamble for a larger amount with me? Ha, ha, what will you bet? Childel snorted. In the aspect of money, he was indeed not afraid of Yi Han. 10 million yuan, Yi Han said slowly. Ha, 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 just 10 million yuan? Although 10 million yuan was not a small number for Childel, he put on an indifferent expression at this time. He sneered and said, 10 million yuan is too little, and it is better for us to bet on your 177. If I win, you should give me the car. If I lose, I'll give you my car and 40 million yuan. Hearing his words, Yi Han frowned all of a sudden. He, who was always cautious, pondered. He found that he still was afraid of an accident though he had a trump card. In fact, he did not want to bet on the car as it was an apple of his eye, so he said, don't talk nonsense, just gamble for 10 million yuan. Do you still want to bet with me, coward? Childel felt pity, and then he shook his head and said, okay, 10 million yuan. Ha, ha, Let's follow the former rules. Yi Han waved his hand to the people behind him and said, "Ask the racing driver to come to the front." As soon as he finished speaking, a man with flat-top haircut in his 30s got out of the passenger seat of the sports car at the end of the motorcade. On catching sight of him, everyone present was totally surprised, and those who recognized him could not help exclaiming, "Isn't this the person who won the first place in the last South Island supercar racing? He is recognized as the North King." My gosh, they really take the racing seriously this time and intend to bet on 10 million yuan. Since Child Yi invited the North King of cars, he will be sure of success. Even Sun Donging explained to the viewers and said, "The North King is very awesome. Do you see that it is a 10 million yuan level gamble?" Seeing what had happened, a variety of viewers were dumbfounded, for they had never seen such a scene before. The luxury cars, like raindrops, as well as the 10 million yuan level gamble were pressing their nerves and made the number of viewers go up steadily. Soon, the number exceeded 800,000, and would break through 1 million. "Hey, you just lost 2 million yuan to me. Now, you're going to give me 10 million yuan. Ha, ha, I have already said that you are too young to compete against me." Child shook his head repeatedly and waved to the people behind him. The racing driver, who was ready to take part in the racing, got out of the last car of Child's team. He was relatively thin, with long hair and a beard. Seeing his appearance, the North King's pupil shrank and he shouted, "King Halt, halt." After thinking for a while, Yi Han suddenly remembered the origin of this name, and he looked ghastly in an instant. Halt was a native of Maya Island, who had participated in a world-class racing competition. In that competition, he was one of the top 16 racing drivers. It was obvious that the North King, who was only famous in the South Island, was definitely not a patch on him, for he performed really great in professional racings. "Do you dare to compete against me?" Child sneered again. "Go ahead." Yi Han gritted his teeth. Apparently, it was impossible for him to hold it back and he had to promise him, "We still have a good chance, for you are really familiar with the roads here, you must take it seriously, and I'll reward you greatly if you win." Yi Han said in the driver's ear, "Let's get started now, don't waste time." While speaking, Child directly waved to Halt and handed the car key to him. The next moment, Halt took it and got into the event and at the head of the team without any hesitation. However, Yi Han asked the racing driver to get into the Lamborghini Gallardo behind them, because he was always reluctant to take his own car as the race car. The two racing drivers got into the cars, driving them to the starting line and silently waiting. Yi Han and Child also took their men to the wall, with screens on it. During this period, Child equipped Yi Han that it was indeed a waste for him to own a 177. Yi Han had planned to hit back but failed since he was powerless. He felt that he was doomed to lose another 10 million yuan today and was really angry at the thought of the result. At this moment, a staff suddenly walked to Yi Han and whispered in his ear. Meanwhile, he pointed to Sun Donging twice. Swish. Yi Han looked over with his sharp gaze. He came over with vigorous stride, as if he had found the vent. At this moment, all the people present felt somewhat amazed, and they all took a few steps back to give Yi Han away. My God, really? Sun Donging was also shocked, and quickly put the phone down. Looking at Yi Han's posture, he was going to come to him. Brother Yi. As Yi Han approached, Sun Donging greeted him in a hurry. Are you doing the live broadcast? Yi Han grabbed Sun Donging's collar without hesitation and said as he frowned, do you understand the rules here? Sun Donging's heart gave a great leap. The live broadcast is still on. Is my image, which has been maintained for several days, going to be ruined? However, he did not know that the viewers in his broadcast room were a little worried about him at this time. Is Brother Dong going to be beaten? Fu K. Really? Shall I call the police? NMB, I'll abuse you if you bully my brother Dong. Sun Donging wanted to be a man of real fiber, but his reason finally over his intention. He gave a wry smile and said calmly, "Brother Yi, you misunderstood me. My camera is concentrating on myself." Ha, ha. Yi Han sneered and did not intend to give him an opportunity, so he waved to his subordinates behind him. Suddenly, 6 or 7 people came over with cold faces. Sun Donging was totally in panic. After thinking for a moment, he said hastily, "I'm Brother Feng's subordinate." "Who?" Yi Han raised his eyebrows. "Brother Feng, Zhao Feng, I'm his man." Seeing Yi Han's expression, Sun Dong sighed with relief. But he did not know that his words only shocked Yi Han for a while. In fact, he knew that Zhao Feng was Mr. Zhang's subordinate, and he was also really afraid of Mr. Zhang, but it did not mean that he would give in to anyone who mentioned their names. Moreover, he did not need to respect each of their subordinates. Yi Han became much angrier at the thought of it. He had lost money and been ridiculed by Child. Now, he had to scruple to beat the man since he mentioned Zhao Feng's name, which indeed annoyed him. Yi Han gritted his teeth and said, "Do you think that you Fu King mentioned his name?" Then, something happened. Honk, honk, honk. Suddenly, several horns were heard from the supercars behind them. Everyone turned to look and suddenly burst into laughter, because behind the 2 rows of supercars, a man in a cute panda car was sounding the horn. The person, who just possesses a car worth tens of thousands of yuan, actually minds them parking their supercars in the way. Does he dare to sound the horn? Is he kidding me? However, when Yi Han looked over and saw the panda car, he could not help shaking. In recent days, he saw a total of 4 or 5 panda cars, and his heart would give a great thump every time he caught sight of it. He suspected whether the boss was coming, but every time it was a false alarm. He even felt that he was so nervous. Meanwhile, in his view, he had been so scared last time that he had sequela. At this moment, he was inexplicably in panic as he saw the panda car. Is it him? It's just kidding. After he saw Zhao Feng getting out of the Land Rover next to the panda car. Gurgle. Yi Han swallowed, and the clear sound was heard. MMP, it was really him. Yi Han suddenly became anxious. But at this point, a scream was heard all of a sudden. Brother Feng. Oh, Fu K. Yi Han was completely shocked. If someone scared him in this way at ordinary times, he was bound to break his legs. But now, Yi Han only felt startled, thinking of a remedy. Ha, ha, ha. Yi Han loosened Sun Donging's collar and smoothed it, and then he said with a friendly smile, "Brother, why don't you tell me that you are doing the live broadcast?" "Hey, I like live broadcast and usually watch it. If you told me before, I would have arranged a good place for you. Show me how many viewers in your broadcast room." While speaking, he reached out his hand to take the phone. After glancing at the screen and seeing himself, he waved his hand with a smile. "Hello, everyone, I'm Yi Han." Sun Donging was a little confused. What happened? The thing is going to a reverse way so quickly. In addition, the content of bullet screens was not very friendly. Fu K. He changes his face really fast. You, Yi Han, aren't qualified to provoke Brother Dong, for he is really awesome. Brother Dong's Brother Feng is here. What do you think? Are you frightened? How shameless he is. Who's he? What an ugly man. As Yi Han saw these bullet screens, his facial muscles became very stiff. Ha, ha, hello, everyone, Yi Han gave a wry smile and waved his hand at the camera, and then handed the phone back to Sun Donging. As soon as Sun Donging took the phone, the bullet screens suddenly changed. Brother Dong is amazing. Brother Dong is the most formidable person. Dong Huang, you're so powerful and handsome. At this time, Sun Donging looked at the bullet screens with confusion and grinned, and then he focused his camera on Zhao Feng, who had gotten out of the car. Only Zhao Feng and Ahu walked over, but everyone took several steps back. They all knew that the person was crazy of Southern District, and were also curious about whether he was going to make troubles here or not. Soon, Zhao Feng got close to Yi Han. Actually, he did not hate people, like Yi Han, from other forces, for he had left the underground forces after all. He, therefore, nodded politely and said, "Child Yi, you are here too." "Yes, I just want to enjoy myself." "Ah Feng, why are you here?" "Welcome," Yi Han said firmly with a smile. "Because my boss wants to have a race." "Is it convenient for you now?" Zhao Feng asked directly. "Now?" Yi Han was lost in thought and glanced at Fangl. Should I play a trick on Fangl? It was the high time for Fangl to conflict with Mr. Zhang and tasted the fear of being dominated. Chapter 318, Making use of the opportunity to cancel the racing. "Hurry up, can you start racing?" Fangl said loudly, facing the screen on the left, and everyone could feel that he was totally impatient. His cry did cater to Yi Han's idea. "Shall I play off them against each other? Should I do it?" Yi Han failed to make up his mind. In fact, he really wanted to take the opportunity to provoke them, stimulating Fangl to rile Mr. Zhang, who was very horrible. This trick was called using the strength of another. However, since they are not stupid, they must know that I am playing them off against each other. What if Mr. Zhang vents his anger on me? No, I can't. I can't displease him. Once Mr. Zhang gets angry, I will come to no good end. Tang Zhan is a vivid example. For prudential reasons, Yi Han denied his thought. He thought that perhaps he could make use of this opportunity to cancel the 10 million yuan gamble. Well, Fangl, you're lucky today. Here comes my honored guest. I can let you go first. Yi Han waved his hand and said loudly, "Hey, what do you mean? Do you just intend to cancel this racing?" Fangl's eyes slightly widened. "I don't bother to talk nonsense with you." Yi Han glanced at him coldly, and then turned to look at Zhao Feng. He smiled at once and said, "Ah Feng, I'm going to greet Mr. Zhang." "Okay." Zhao Feng nodded and guided Yi Han to the panda car that seemed to be at the lowest price among the cars present. "What?" Fangl raised his eyebrows, seeing Yi Han's expression. He was also somewhat astonished. Yi Han has his own pride, and always gives me tit for tat in the face of me. However, he is so polite at this point. Doesn't this person have strong background? Who's he? Fangl asked several people beside him. His name is Zhao Feng, who ranked first of Forever Harmony Association in Southern District before, and others call him crazy. Besides, he is really formidable. Zheng Chenyu responded in a low voice, "I heard that he separated himself from the underground forces later and followed a boss." At that time, the underground forces in the Southern District were in chaos. Yi Han, Xia Xuanhuan and Dong Tanping all were there, and Zhao Feng accepted the challenge. They were about to fight against each other, but it ended up with nothing definite. It is said that Zhao Feng's boss stopped that conflict, but I also don't know the details. "Oh?" Fangl frowned and said, "Now that he suppresses the forces of the three parties by virtue of his own strength, why haven't I heard of this person? Is it just a rumor? Let's see what will happen first." Zheng Chenyu nodded. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Han walked to the window of the panda car, following Zhao Feng. Zhang Han rolled down the window and stared at Yi Han without saying anything. "Ahem, hello, Mr. Zhang." Yi Han greeted him first. "Well, I'm going to have a race. Is it convenient for you now?" Zhang Han asked casually. He did not mind waiting for a moment. But Yi Han did. Not only because Zhang Han exerted great pressure on him, but also because he was unwilling to lose 10 million yuan. He, therefore, said with a nod, "I'm idle now, it's my pleasure to race with Mr. Zhang." After finishing speaking, he waved his hand to his subordinated nearby and said, "Drive the car away and give way to Mr. Zhang." "Mr. Zhang, are you going to drive this car?" Yi Han glanced at the panda car. Although this car was a little cute, he really turned his nose up at it. Moreover, he would not enjoy himself if he drove the panda car. Therefore, he thought for a while and said, "Mr. Zhang, would you mind driving my car?" Hearing his words, Zhang Han froze. Now that he wanted to chase for speed and excitement, he would feel better to drive a supercar, so Zhang Han nodded and said, "Okay. Well, Mr. Zhang, please, this is my car key." Yi Han felt worried and handed the car key of his own Aston Martin over. Simultaneously, he prayed that Zhang Han was good at driving. His heart would be broken if his car was hit. Zhang Han took the car key and got out of the panda car. Under the guidance of Yi Han, he walked to the grey Aston Martin 177 in front of him. Seeing what had happened, dozens of people around were extremely shocked. "Do you see that? Is my boss awesome?" Sun Dongying took a few photos of Zhang Han and began to speak with excitement. "What? Yi Han actually let another have his car?" Fang raised his eyebrows. He had not expected that Yi Han would have lent his beloved car to another one today. It seemed that the person indeed had a great background. Where does he come from? Why haven't I seen him before? The girl next to him looks pretty good. Fang's eyes narrowed. What? At this moment, two screams were heard behind Fang. "Isn't that the young couple? SHT, I actually meet them here. My gosh, how formidable they are. It is really amazing that Yi Han is extremely deferential to them. They must have a strong background," Zheng Chenyu said, curling his lips. In the meantime, his thought struck terror into himself. Fortunately, he was a man of principle, or he was bound to be beaten badly once he conflicted with the man. Fu Ke, this beauty's boyfriend is really extraordinary. Hello. Huang Wen let out a cry more cheerfully. After seeing Zhang Han and Xian looking over, he patted himself on his bald head. Clap, clap. It's me, reflective sun. What a coincidence. Huang Wen waved and said. After seeing the young couple smiling, Huang Wen also laughed and said, "Child, we met this couple this morning, and they are very awesome." That handsome man, with crowning surfing skills, came through an 18-meter-high surge with his girlfriend in his arms. Besides, he, like a dolphin, also flew up and down. What a pity that you did not see him showing his skills. It's so cool. Oh. Do you know who they are? Fang asked. I have no idea. How did you talk nonsense since you don't know their identities? Do you know that guy makes me lose 10 million yuan? Fang stretched out his hand to pat Huang Wen on the head. He knew that Yi Han would not continue in the competition. He finally had a chance to take Yi Han down, but an unknown man ruined this golden opportunity, which annoyed Fang. However, he had guessed that this man probably had a great background, so he just intended to stand in place and continue to see what would happen. Under everyone's gaze, Zhang Han and Xian got into the Aston Martin. Yi Han then waved to the two cars, which were ready to start. Get out of the way, you don't need to have a race now. The North King was obedient enough and drove aside without any hesitation. Then he got out of the car and walked to Yi Han. As for Yi Han, he waved directly. Xiaowu, send him back, we won't have a race today. As Fang saw what had happened, his mouth trembled slightly, and he scolded secretly. What a shameless person Yi Han is. Since the two supercars made way for them, the Aston Martin and Fang's car were at the head of the motorcade. The tall beautiful lady, dressed in sexy clothes, with a bunting in her hand, wanted to project herself, so she rushed to the racing track. But when she just took 5 steps forward and had not yet reached the edge of the track, suddenly, zoom, 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 Aston Martin's engine made an angry roar. Buzz, buzz, the tires rubbed against the ground fiercely, and the rear wheels rotated at a high speed, which made the car almost suspend. However, the next moment, Aston Martin showed its capacity of holding the ground. It sped up and rushed out, vanishing in a few seconds. Everyone rushed to the camera to see what was happening, and simultaneously uttered a cry. It's so fast. Its speed is really amazing, and it gives me the creeps at a glance. Zhao Feng, Ahu and Yi Han also walked to the screen. Yi Han, you are indeed good at making use of the opportunity. Ha, ha. Feng could not help but sneer. Now that Mr. Zhang is here, I certainly should make room for him. If you are upset, you can talk to Mr. Zhang, or Ah Feng. who is standing beside me?" Yi Han sneered. Chapter 319, For free? Mr. Zhang, you respect him so much. Is Mr. Zhang your dad? Fang laughed right after. His words would make others feel that he was not only ridiculing Yi Han, but also looking down on Zhang Han. Zhao Feng stared at him for a few seconds. His brows slightly moved, but he did not say anything. "Stop speaking nonsense here. If you want to play, we will come another day." Yi Han stared at Fang. Today he was a little inferior and didn't want to talk with him, so he turned to look at Zhao Feng and smiled, saying, "I heard that you are about to open a company. Is it in the former CBD building in New Moon Bay?" Zhao Feng nodded, and before he spoke, Fang grinned. He said disdainfully, "You really know how to brag, huh? Who doesn't know that the former CBD in New Moon Bay belongs to Chairman Liu? It's ridiculous. Maybe I'd believe you if you said it was somewhere else. That place? You are embarrassing yourself." "What did you say, you brat?" Ahu stared at him and asked. He was trying to mock them. How dare he? Zhao Feng frowned slightly and went straight to Fang. As soon as he moved, all people around Fang became very cautious and moved forward a little. Yi Han found it very funny. He did not intend to make it hard for him, but who would think that he would bring that upon himself? "Damn you, how dare you offend Brother Feng?" Sun Donging said that in a low voice while in the back, then stepped forward hurriedly. He stood behind Zhao Feng, like a loyal disciple footman of his. At the place where he was standing earlier, Lu Yin was taking her mobile phone out. She turned the camera to the front, whispering, "Look, they seem to be arguing, so scary." In people's eyes, Zhao Feng moved toward Fang step by step. He took out his mobile phone from his pocket and made some moves, as he was walking to Fang. Although he was standing in front of him all alone, Fang did not dare to move. "This is Liu Qingfeng's phone number. You can call and ask him." Zhao Feng was quite indifferent. He stared at Fang and handed over the phone. "You." Fang gritted his teeth, held back his anger and looked at the phone. When he saw Liu Qingfeng's name and the string of numbers on the screen, his expression changed slightly. He really knew Chairman Liu? Damn it. What was their relationship? If it was really as they said, they must be business partners. If he could cooperate with Chairman Liu, then Fang's face became slightly reddish. He felt a little nervous. Fortunately, he was not a stubborn man. After seeing it, he smiled at Zhao Feng and nodded, saying, "Mr. Zhao, I am sorry. I am only targeting Yi Han. My words may have offended you, but I didn't mean it. Sorry." "Oh." Zhao Feng responded coldly, then he glanced at him, took the phone and walked back a few steps. Fang felt embarrassed and wanted to leave that place. Zoom, zoom. A loud and grating sound rang over the Mount Red Star. He turned to look at the screen and saw that the Aston Martin drove into the mountain track, drifting on the tortuous roads. Looking at the gorgeous movements and various kinds of smooth drifting, people even forgot to blink their eyes. "Damn it, Mr. Zhang went to the mountain?" Yi Han was shocked. "My precious car, you can't be scratched." He didn't care about anything else, just hoping that nothing bad would happen to his car. Then his attention was focused on the drift. Mr. Zhang's driving skills are superb. Yi Han widened his eyes and cried, "It's way too fast." He was not the only one who was shocked at the scene. Those onlookers also couldn't help but exclaim, "He dares turn without slowing down? How can this be? That fast? Impossible." Even Fang and his men were a little bit shocked. Fang looked at the screen in surprise and murmured, "Why do I feel like I'm watching the movie of the racing god on Mount Quming? Amazing." Hult's expression changed a lot. At the beginning, he was very calm, then he was surprised. At last, he was totally convinced by him. "It's unbelievable. He's a great surfer, and also an excellent racer. Awesome. Zheng Chenyu praised him again and again. It's no wonder that he can win the heart of such a beauty. Forget about his identity. Just his surfing or racing abilities can make many girls throw themselves to him," Huang Wen said while touching his bald head. All the people present were amazed. Screams were also coming from that fast-moving supercar. Wow! Yeah? Ah! Who? Xian sometimes screamed and sometimes cheered. She felt that her heart was about to jump out of her mouth. She felt extremely excited and shocked sitting in that car. When they were driving on the straight road, it could be seen from the outside that the speed was very fast. But for people in the car, their feeling wasn't that strong. Xian was not afraid. At the beginning, she was still able to look around with her beautiful eyes. But when Zhang Han quickly drove to the mountain track, the car began to drift continuously. She began to experience the fast and furious speed. There were hillsides ahead of some curves, and the car just drifted along the edge. It felt like they were about to fall off. Some curves were so close to the mountains. It seemed that the car was going to hit on the mountain, and Xian was so scared that she screamed with her eyes closed. But when she opened her eyes, the car had gone to the next curve. It was like going on a roller coaster, but this kind of drift, which would lead to some accidents, would make people more nervous. Zoom, zoom. After passing the last big curve, Zhang Han slowed down and slowly drove on the track. Drive straight and make a turn, then it'll be over. Zhang Han glanced at Xian and smiled, saying, I didn't expect you to be so brave. Xian exhaled. She patted her chest and said, I'm so nervous. I'm not brave. It's just that I believe in you. If it was someone else, I would not dare to sit in his car. You drive so well. Xian became a little excited while speaking. Why could Zhang Han do everything so well? Not so bad. I learned this from an Asian car king for more than a year. Drifting is actually very simple. Overcome fear, control the speed and the car's forward momentum. Zhang Han casually replied, learn for a while and you can make some simple movements. If you are interested, I can teach you. I won't learn, I rarely drive. Xian smiled and replied, when it comes to driving, I think of something. What is it? Xian asked curiously. There are fewer people on Mount Quming, so many cars came here for racing. Now the roads are still here, but those drivers are not. Zhang Han grinned. Huh? Xian was confused. Then her eyes lit up, seeming that she'd thought of something. She pouted her small mouth and said coyly, my driver, please take me away with you. Ah? Zhang Han was stunned. Ha ha ha. Seeing his reaction, Xian couldn't stop laughing. You are so cute, I can't wait to conquer you. Zhang Han was tempted, saying, where did you learn such things? Come on, I know everything. I always see other girls speak like that on the internet. Xian stuck her tongue out. The two of them kept chatting while driving back. Now in front of the club, many people were still amazed. Especially that car king Halt. He was totally convinced by him. Fang, who was about to leave, was also standing there silently, and behind him, Zheng Chenyu and Xuanhuan were shaking their heads again and didn't know what to say. He had such great surfing and racing skills and also seemed to have a high social status. They really couldn't believe that such a man would exist in the world. On the other side, Sun Dongying was live broadcasting energetically and the number of fans had already reached to 1.5 million. He constantly moved his phone and recorded a lot. He also planned to go racing later, but he could only drive on the outer ring route in Mount Red Star. Zhao Feng stared at the screen for a while and felt a little lost. He thought for a while, then he looked at Yi Han next to him and asked, Mr. Yi, I wonder if you have a better sports car there. Is it that Mr. Zhang wants it? Yi Han asked unconsciously, but after asking that, he felt that he was just talking nonsense. Now that Zhao Feng asked at that time, naturally it was for Mr. Zhang, so he thought about it and said, do you want a high-end sports car? Zhao Feng nodded. In my car dealership, there are only a few high-end sports cars. An orange Lamborghini Aventador, I can sell it to you for 8 million. A black Lamborghini Murcielago, also 8 million. I also have a more famous one. It is a limited edition and there are only 3 in the whole world. Bugatti Veyron limited edition. I got it from my uncle. 60 million will be okay. Yi Han thought about it and said, I got it. Zhao Feng responded and planned to ask his master if he had plans of buying a sports car. Oh, yes, there is a car which is more suitable for Mr. Zhang. Yi Han's eyes suddenly lit up. What's that? Zhao Feng asked curiously. The Maybach Xelero. Yi Han stared at Zhao Feng and said word by word, there is only one in their whole world. What? Fang suddenly cried out and looked at Yi Han, saying, that Maybach is with you? Not only Fang, everyone who had heard Yi Han's words were all ears. There was only one in the world and it was definitely high profile when someone was driving it. Sun Donging, who was enthusiastically fond of sports cars, got really jealous. Ha ha, Yi Han laughed. He did not answer Fang and looked at Zhao Feng, saying, my dad spent 70 million and used a lot of connections in order to get the car. Zhao Feng, if Mr. Zhang wants it, I can persuade my dad to give this car to Mr. Zhang for free, but I have a condition. For free? What? Fang was surprised and screeched. He looked at Yi Han as if watching a fool. If the car was hyped up, its price would be multiplied several times, and with the gimmick of being the only one in the whole world, he could do so many things. But he said it was for free? Was he crazy? All people nearby who heard Yi Han's words widened their eyes and looked at him with an incredulous look. Go ahead, Zhao Feng replied calmly. Hearing this, Yi Han moved closer to Zhao Feng, whispering, my condition is very simple. After Zhao Feng heard the words, he thought for 5 seconds and finally nodded, okay, but I have to ask the boss if he has any interest. Chapter 320, Causing Trouble Again. When he was speaking, Zhao Feng found that Yi Han's eye expression had also changed a bit. That Yi Han was very clever. His request was very simple. He hoped that someone could help him out at a life and death moment. That requirement was equivalent to a one-time death-free gold medal. To put it bluntly, he used a car worth 70 million, which was the only one in the world, as a gift and also a favor, in exchange for being protected once. If Zhao Feng helped him in the future, that favor would have been repaid. Zhao Feng thought it was fine, because Yi Han and the Yi family wouldn't be destroyed immediately. Also, Zhao Feng and the security team had just started. There was no doubt that they would definitely become stronger with the support of his powerful master. So, to help Yi Han once at that time would be very easy. After thinking about it, Zhao Feng agreed with him, but he still needed to ask if his master was interested. Those cars might be really attractive to others, but for his master, Zhao Feng knew that maybe they were just like toy cars. While they were talking there, the Aston Martin, which had been like flying in the mountain just then, came back slowly. It immediately attracted everyone's attention. The car was near and Yi Han walked a few steps forward. He subconsciously stared at the car for a moment and finally felt relieved when he saw it intact. As long as it wasn't scratched. Yi Han thought like that. As for the tire wear caused by drifting, although the tires would be changed in a shorter time, Yi Han didn't care about such consumption at all. After Zhang Han and Xian got off the car. Wow, boss, you're awesome. Sun Donging took the lead and shouted. Others heard him and a few people cheered and screamed. Here's the car key, thank you. Zhang Han did not approach them, directly throwing the car key in his hand to Yi Han. Yi Han was shocked, but the car key fell smoothly in his hand. Zhang Han nodded to him, and then he and Xian got on the panda car. At that moment, Zhao Feng walked towards them quickly and by the driver's seat window, he told Zhang Yan about the sports car and Yi Han's request. In Yi Han's gaze, Zhang Han nodded lightly and raised the window after saying a few more words. Mr. Yi, I'll take all the cars that you mentioned just now. I also grant your request. I will talk to you about the details tomorrow. You can go to prepare the cars. Zhao Feng walked to Yi Han and said. Hearing Zhao Feng's words, Fang was stunned. All the cars that he mentioned, damn it, it would cost a fortune. A limited edition Bugatti Veyron, 60 million, 2 Lamborghini, 15 million, it was already 75 million in total. And also the Maybach, which was worth 60 million, the total price was 135 million. Even if the Maybach was for free, it would still be 75 million. It was not a small amount. It could be invested to open a small company. And the Maybach, the only one in the entire world, was for free? Yi Han must be out of his mind. He knew that Yi Han couldn't be crazy, and there was only one answer. Mr. Zhang, who was in the panda car, must be a big shot. Thinking of that made Fang scared. He just stood there, without saying anything. Okay, I will arrange it later. Yi Han smiled and responded to Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng nodded, then he turned back and got on the car with Ah Hu. He quickly started the car, chasing the panda car in the distance. They were going to play at Zhang Li's nightclub for a while. The nightclub was a place where people could release their inner wildness. They would dance to the heavy metal music, but because people would drink some wine there, they would not be as sober as normal, and sometimes that could cause trouble. There was no doubt that if the master went by himself, he did not have to follow him, but his master's wife also went there. She was so beautiful. If there were only the master and his wife, it was possible that some men would come talk to her. Although master could deal with all kinds of situations, some idiots that would still affect their mood. So Zhao Feng directly stopped talking about buying cars with Yi Han and went to follow them. Under everyone's attention, the panda car and the Land Rover gradually drove away. Yi Han, who is this Mr. Zhang? Fang couldn't help but ask. He and Chairman Liu have a cooperation? Why do I feel a bit confused? Chairman Liu has a complete industrial plan for the former CBD building. How can he give it up? And if they are cooperating, why haven't I heard any news about that? Go ask them by yourself. Yi Han did not care about his feelings at all and said to him angrily, I will naturally inquire about this. I would like to see if Chairman Liu is really cooperating with others. Fang snorted and replied, he just couldn't believe that kind of thing anyways. How could Liu Qingfeng, such a successful businessman, give up his own interests? However, he did not know that in that world, there was a group of people who were chased after by the rich. Suddenly, a very calm yet exaggerated voice came over. Haha, I don't know if they cooperate or not, but Chairman Liu gave all his treasured liquor in Hong Kong to my boss for free. Sun Donging walked to the front slowly and looked at Fang, saying, I saw it with my own eyes. All of the liquor was worth nearly 10 million. These words made Fang's expression change a bit. Really? Liu Qingfeng gave away his treasured liquor for free? Damn it. That news came so suddenly. He blinked his eyes and was just about to ask Sun Donging. Sun Donging did not give him a chance. He looked at Yi Han and smiled, saying, Mr. Yi, are you going? My fans are anxious. If you don't go, I will go with my friends. Hey? Yi Han raised his brows, saying, we are like brothers, call me Brother Yi. Well, Xiaohu, next time when my brother comes, you must receive him well. You hear me? Yes, boss. The person in charge nodded. He also looked at Sun Donging in confusion. Earlier when he arrived, he was just a nobody, but now something had changed and even Mr. Yi was very polite with him. There was another question. Who was that Mr. Zhang just then? He must be extremely powerful. However, he was only the person in charge there and would not ask about anything. After Yi Han finished speaking, he looked at the mobile phone in Sun Donging's hands. He felt a bit awkward and said unwillingly, my brother, just make yourself at home. Go ahead. Okay. Sun Donging laughed and turned to his car. During that period, he said to the mobile phone's camera, buddies, let's go racing. I'll show you my great skills. Starry Sky Bar in Causeway Bay. The female receptionist had just received a group of guests. Seeing that no one was coming and she could have a few minutes of leisure time, she held her chin with her hand and looked at the direction of the door absent-mindedly. Her mind had gone somewhere else. She was thinking about staying up late and playing games with her friends after work. Suddenly, a handsome guy and a gorgeous lady. When she saw the two good-looking people coming in, she subconsciously admired them. However, when she saw the two guys, he and the handsome guy and the beautiful lady, her eyes gradually widened. Hiss. It was them who had brought people to cause trouble last time. Oh no, they were here to cause trouble again. The receptionist realized that and her heart beat fast. She hurriedly picked up the walkie-talkie next to the computer and lowered her head, saying quickly, Day, bad news, the people who caused trouble last time are here again, come here, hurry, I'm afraid. Before she had finished her words, a light cough came from the front of the counter. Ahem, miss, is table 1 available? Ah? The receptionist was stunned. She raised her head and forced a smile. Sorry, I don't know if it is available.